Welcome to our vibrant network of governance, risk, compliance, and cybersecurity leaders. We share cutting-edge insights, best practices, and innovative strategies to empower professionals in navigating the dynamic cyber threat landscape. Join Circulo de CISO to ignite resilience and data protection across industries.
Chinthaka, welcome back to continue our conversation on platformization. So, in the previous episodes, we spoke about what is platformization, and then in the second episode, we spoke about the challenges which are posed by platformization to the organizations. So today I want to focus our conversation on how platformization impacts cybersecurity. Does it enhance or does it pose more challenges? Chinthaka, what's your take on this?
Even in cybersecurity, the platform is, I would say it's not a new concept for cybersecurity as well. We have seen, if we look at the evaluation of next generation firewall that it went through, again, it's a good example of platformization. Early days, we used to have layer 3, layer 4 firewall separately, and then we would have a IPS, IDS appliance separately, then VPN appliance separately, likewise, different modules were there. But now, if you look at it nowadays, even web proxy, we used to have separate appliances for proxies. Now, all of these functions has come to a single firewall, able to deliver from a single firewall because that firewall has evolved into that aspect. So it has become a platform itself in our case. And then if you look at from a technology perspective, what we have seen that are happening is that attackers are getting more and more smart and the attacks are becoming more sophisticated. And with that, what we have seen is while they're leveraging, we have seen supply chains getting compromised and then legitimate processes are used to deliver attacks together. And then we are seeing the way that they're using the tools that is available on the system itself. So those, if you are to find an attack like that, it will be finding a needle in the haystack, right? So with all of this, and the other aspect is early days, the attackers usually used to get into an environment. Let's say they compromise the environment, they get into the environment after initial access, and they will look to lateral movement. And this early days, it used to actually take from 3 months to 6 months time. But nowadays, we have seen that time actually reduce up to 4 days. So that means there's very less time as defenders for us to actually detect that there is attacker present in my environment, something has happened. I need to investigate that fast, and then I have to put an end to it. I have to close that gap. And then if you look at it from the other side of things, for example, we have seen websites getting compromised, right? Because early days, what we used to do is we develop a website, we will do a vulnerability scan every 3 months, maybe quarterly or twice per year. But nowadays, with agile deployment in there and the cloud technologies being part of that, we are looking at faster development cycles. So usually the DevOps cycle means that we will be releasing features every 1 week, we will be putting some new features out. So how do we know that when the user is coding itself, whether they has used a vulnerable library in the code? So now products has evolved that where we are actually trying to detect it at that phase itself when the user is writing the code. They have referred to import a library that is, because most of the libraries are not written by them, it will be out there on the internet. So when we import that, we don't know what is there inside, whether there is a vulnerability or whether there is an attacker's code inside that library. So the systems has evolved, and we will have different, we talked about code to cloud security and all of that. So we have all of these systems in place. And for the vulnerability scanning perspective, now we are talking about attack surface management, because we understand that doing a scan every 3 months, 4 months is not sufficient, because we are introducing new features. So that means we need to know if there is a vulnerability at that point itself. So because of all of these technological advancements, so we need to actually do defending faster. So that's where actually the platform comes in, where it helps us to achieve these requirements and mitigate these challenges through a platform. And if I dive a little bit more into the SOC as a platform, right? So if you look at from a SOC analyst perspective, one of the key challenges that SOC has is alert fatigue, because you have 20 different tools that are giving you alerts, but you don't have context in that alert. And then when you want to spend time, investigate all of this, it's going to take time, because level one triaging involves you going to multiple places and looking at whether there is something actually malicious. And then you are reaching out to the user and getting the feedback whether user has done this activity. And we need to actually reduce that time. And because the number of alerts are increasing, and then what will happen is we tend to miss those low alerts that might actually have a significant impact in your environment. So that's why I mentioned that, okay, finding that needle in the haystack. So for that to do, actually, analysts need to have time in their hand where they should be able to go and actually do threat hunting in the environment. So that is one angle to it. And so that means for you to have time, then we need to introduce automation also as part of the platform. So when you have automation where it can actually talk to multiple tools and get, like, for example, if you have to block it at some place, you should be able to block it in all of the places in a one single go. So then the other aspect from network security angle is from a consistent policies perspective, because if you take a decision that in my organization I'm not going to allow you to connect to BitTorrent and other peer-to-peer communications, that you should be able to actually implement it across. So it should not be such that when the user goes home, user is able to connect to peer-to-peer. So consistent security policies, we need to bring in automation. And then the most important thing in a platform is that we need to ensure that the products that we have is able to talk to each other in a meaningful way, so that when you look at that alert or when you try to investigate, you get the right context in that aspect so that you will be able to do it much more faster.
So, Chinthaka, all what you mentioned, I've had the opportunity of having similar conversations with other professions. And one of them, Isaac Jeffrey, spoke about autonomous testing, penetration testing. He's talking about continuously testing, identifying the vulnerabilities. Right? He's saying before somebody tests it for you free, and then you have legal and reputational damage or compliance issues, you do that. Right? So it now comes, it also reduces the fatigue even from a pen tester's perspective. So you are able to test broad and deep. Then I also spoke to another professional, Ekanayake, who was talking at length about attack surface management, where he's talking about vulnerability intelligence, where they're building in threat intel into the vulnerabilities and giving you a score where you can actually prioritize which vulnerabilities needs to be attended ASAP. Now, typically, you use a standalone tool, maybe Nessus or Qualys or any other tool. You would have a list of vulnerabilities, and the IT team or the software team will have to sift through it and figure out where will they have to prioritize. So again, a platform is able to provide you that visibility. And I also spoke to another professional, Subramanian Whitey, who functions as head of information risk management for a fintech company. He at length spoke about the faster development cycle, the challenges posed by it. As you rightly said, DevOps gives the ability for the teams to innovate, release new features at the shortest possible time. But it also introduces new risk. So he was insistent that we should all shift left, meaning security at the time of design. So security, secure by design, privacy by design. Now, what I'm hearing from you, you are just echoing all the conversations I've had with these people, and you're bringing in the other aspect of automation, orchestration, and very specifically the fatigue which the the security monitoring team would have in day-to-day work. Because let's say when you have a 5 million attacks, right? Some low, some medium, some high. Where do you prioritize? How do you see a pattern? And at some point in time, the team will be stretched.
Okay.
And 5 million requests per second is something a human can't handle. So I guess that's the advantage a platform brings to an organization. And you also spoke about orchestration as well. And then you also talked about policy enforcement, consistently enforcing the policy from a central location. Let's say you have 10,000 devices. Do you do one by one? Probably by the time you turn around, completing one, there are innumerable other vulnerabilities or other issues which have arisen. But one click of a button, you should be able to protect all your devices, or maybe even block certain services. Right? So I guess we are getting into an era where you need to look at, from an organization's perspective, a consolidated risk management framework, right? Where you use all these platforms, which has tools specific to certain security threat landscape, and how do you make use of that information to reduce your risk? So I guess that's what I see as my takeaway from this conversation. Chinthaka, what are your other thoughts? Do you have anything else you want to add to what I said?
So definitely. So if we look at the recent innovations that are happening, right? So we are seeing AI and ML being core-front of innovation. And if you look at as of this stage, we don't know where it will end up because we are just scratching the surface of the capabilities on AI and ML. And then the other aspect is having the right security, the skills, because it's something that we have seen in the industry that we don't always have the right skills because people need to skill up, and there is a shortage in cybersecurity skills as well. So how can actually platform help to address these things, right? So from automation perspective, it will actually help you to focus on more important things rather than doing the same repetitive thing, so that cybersecurity professional who's attending that, they will actually get the time to actually enhance their skills itself, because you are not doing a repetitive job. And the other aspect that you talk about, prioritizing risk, right? So that's where actually ML AI capabilities actually comes in, giving that score. Hey, these are the alerts that we think that you should attend immediately. This is a high critical one, and then we do that analysis based on the various parameters in the organization. We understand what are the AD servers. If there is an alert on the AD server, that is something very critical that we need to attend to. So then from importance of person perspective, okay, admins, we are getting alert for a particular admin's user account. So we need to prioritize that because that is a privileged account. We need to identify that. So we need to incorporate AI ML rightly into the platform so that we can actually get the benefit of all of these things. And we talked about various tools in the autonomous testing, from vulnerability scan, all of those things. So if you have 100 different consoles to actually look at different things, that is not something that is going to help you. So that's where actually platformization comes in, giving that single visibility, telling you, okay, these are the things that you need to prioritize, and then resolve that. And then we are seeing co-pilots coming in to getting embedded into platforms where we'll be able to interact in natural language, so that you don't no longer need to know a specific query language to actually go and get things done. So you'll be able to naturally get you will be able to do the queries in natural language and get the output faster. So that's a good trend I see in cybersecurity, and then that get incorporated into platforms.
Absolutely. So what's encouraging is all what you said, right? AI is an assistant, right? ML is there to assist. Copilot is as an assistant. So it is also important for the humans to stay ahead of this. Otherwise, we will be leaving everything for these tools to do, where the humans may not even know whether that's doing the right thing or the wrong thing. So always human in the loop is always important. And what I also want to emphasize is, while on one side we see a huge skill gap in the industry to address the security needs, these tools actually aid in reducing the fatigue which is being set by the trend. So I guess somewhere we need to balance this off. But I see interesting times. So when I say interesting times, these tools would actually give you context. I remember you were talking to me in another conversation where you said these platforms, not only it eases the work, but it also gives you context. Because today when you look at an alert, sometimes you have to go and look at, see whether that, what is that IP? Who owns that IP? The reputation of the IP, right? And so many parameters to validate. Now, when you have a platform, is contextualizing and summarizing, telling you, hey guys, this is the snippet of this particular alert. So here it allows that human to make a conscious decision what they need to do. If they see it's one-off, then they can treat it differently. But if they see that this is going to a recurring issue, apply a policy, like you rightly said, centrally apply the policy, push it to every location or every asset. So you're actually upgrading the security levels in real quick time, right?
Yeah,
So Chinthaka,
definitely.
thank you so much for your thoughts in this episode where we talked about, I think we mostly discussed about a lot of benefits from a cybersecurity perspective. So I would like to invite you for the last and final episode where we would be talking about the industry specific adoption in this platformization. So how are industries or specific verticals adopting platforms? So with that note, thank you, Chinthaka, for your time. See you around tomorrow for the next episode.
Thank you, Vijay.